Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series Europe Challenger Edition. It's the final Challenger season of the year. I'm already going to start breaking out the wet works for it. But I'm Nathanius, joined by Paulo Vizcarra. Did I pronounce that anywhere close to appropriate?
You were rolling your R's better in the...
Vizcarra.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Katz?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Nate?
It's good to have you here for
Good to
WCS.
see you. Yeah.
So,
Happy to be here.
I like your scarf.
Thank you very much.
First thing we talked about today is I'm just very self-conscious about my very distinct lack of style, but thankfully Katz will be here to bring that. We've also got Cole Tarrant. He's going to be joining us for his first WCS show today later as well, but we are here for Challenger, which means we get to do all the fun things like let you know how does Challenger work. Well, we had players qualify from all over Europe. We had the ladder qualifiers. We had regular qualifiers. We had players get seeded, and we are going to go through with our 16 players in our group stage, and it is going to seed into a wonderful bracket, and then we're going to have that wonderful bracket play out, and we're going to find out the champion of Europe. It's going to include some seeding for WCS Fall, which is going to be Montreal. It's going to be very exciting times, very excited for that tournament, and then we're going to pull that. Yeah, so there we go, a beautiful graphic. So a winner's going to get crowned for each region. The first half of today's show will be WCS Challenger Europe Group A, and then we'll be doing the same exact thing for America after we conclude our matches for Europe today. And there's a good amount of money on the line as well, despite the fact that we talk about how there's seeding and placement involved for WCS Fall. Still plenty of money on the line, $1,600 to first place, but money spread out all the way through the top 16, so everybody gets a chance to make some money. One of the best things about this format is it's a great opportunity for some of the younger guys that you may not know about to perform and do well. Forget about the young guys that you don't know about, though, because already in this group, we've got some of the heaviest hitters in Europe. I think a lot of people very excited for the first match. We've got Reynor playing, Katz.
Yeah, and it's against GunGFuBanDa. He's maybe one of those players that people haven't heard that much about. He's been around for a long time, but he is potent. Rumor has it he's even defeated Cyril a couple of times in macro games.
Oh my goodness.
On the ladders.
I was going to say, he's most known for his name looking like GunGFuBanDa, for sure. And then after that, we're going to have a laser and U-thermal. It's really just a group of S-class Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
I think GunGFuBanDa is probably, I mean, you're saying things like that, and you're getting me a little bit curious now, but I think he's probably the odd man out.
I would say he's the underdog.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's the odd man out. I wouldn't be surprised if he took second or third. I would be surprised if he, managed to defeat everyone.
Yeah. I think there's been a bit of a question maybe around, like, a laser is a player that I see is, like, should be able to get second place here as well. But I also then boil it down to how good U-Thermal's PvZ is, at least for, like, Reynor, talking about, like, weaknesses, mech from Terran, from the most recent tournaments as well. But we'll see. We're loading in. This series is going to start off on Thunderbird. And I'm so glad to have you, Katz, because everyone always whines that at WCS here we don't have enough Zerg experts, and now I can finally stop pretending to know anything about this game and just ask you questions instead.
Well, I'll be happy to help. And Thunderbird is an awesome map for CVP. One of the more macro-oriented maps in the map pool, if not the most macro-oriented map in the map pool.
Can you tell it's my favorite map in this map pool?
Yes, of course. No doubt about that. And part of the reason for that is going to be the expansion. There's only one area leading into both expansions, the natural base and the third base. So if you protect that area, then you're well set up to go into a macro game.
I think all of the loading screens that I can see are full, so it's either one of our observers has crashed or they're just taking a while to load, but we will be getting to the game very soon. Yeah, it's the first match. So GSL style group, so we're going to have this one, 5 best of 3s today for Europe, and then 5 best of 3s today for America. I think for Europe has always been bit more depth in terms of the pro scene there, so it's going to be a bit more of the competitive games. I'm excited about our American groups coming through as well, because we do have some new players, as we've had every season of Challenger this year for NA. So we're going to be live all 4 days this weekend. So today, tomorrow, all the way through the 11th on Sunday, you'll be able to tune in at the same time here. So you're going to have plenty of StarCraft to watch, so you get to see the best from Europe and then the NA memes.
Yeah, I mean, American StarCraft is really fun.
It's special.
And it is something else, like you said, like people are rising a lot more. at least maybe it's easier to grab one of those spots in America than it is in Europe. So you see the stars rising and trying to prove themselves here.
I wonder did the Nation Wars voting close yet? I don't think it did, right?
I don't believe so.
So if you see anybody playing in Challenger this weekend, you're like, hey, that guy looks really good.
Or casting.
Or casting. You're like, hey, that guy's got a really nice scarf. Maybe I should go vote for him in on the Peruvian Nation Wars team. Just saying, just putting it out there. As I know, a lot of the younger players, especially some of the American players, have been very, very excited to get in. Future's been one of my favorites to watch. As he's had a great character arc this year in StarCraft.
He has, yeah. And the North American Terrans are really stepping it up too. That's kind of the surprising thing about North America for me. It's grooming Terrans somehow. I feel like you have a little bit to do with that.
Well, I'll take all the responsibility. Sure. Yeah. This is just that awkward moment where I'm like, the loading screen is totally full, so we're probably going to have to restart the lobby, as I assume that someone's PC has ridden the struggle bus. Unless they disconnect and then the game just starts. That's also possible.
Or it just starts right now.
No,
that didn't
we
work.
tried.
No.
We tried. But, yeah, good PvZ coming up.
It's going to be great. Yeah.
This European group, very well balanced. For as far as the races in the groups go, I think pretty much all of them are going to be something for everybody. I think Group C Europe has no Terrans, but other than that, it's like there's going to be Terrans and Protoss and Zergs in basically every group for even both of them. So yeah,
it's a good time to spread the word if you're watching at home.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of variety for the StarCraft to watch this weekend, and there are some other cool things coming up soon that I totally can't tell you about, but you should just be excited. You should just be excited for StarCraft as we wind down. We've only got so many events left as well, and then now we're at that point. People are like, well, it's just Challenger. There's not as much money. There's not as many points. But don't you worry. Someone's going to be very sad on Twitter in the next couple of weeks when they find out that they don't make it to BlizzCon because of a couple of WCS points they missed in Challenger. That's always my favorite.
That's your favorite? That's
my well, no, because every tournament matters is what is the point. And a lot of people are like, well, this one's bigger or that one's more important. But at the end of the day, they all end up mattering because there always is one fan favorite. Usually it's a fan favorite who either barely doesn't qualify or we have to do some like weird draw scenario. And
yeah. Well, we're getting invited back into the lobby, so we should be going pretty soon here.
Yeah.
How do you like this map, Nate?
Oh,
What's your favorite?
Yeah. Well, it's a great mech map, right? It's a great defensive map.
I'm really curious to see how Reynor's going to approach this because he's kind of an aggressive player, likes the link run buys. And in contrast, I think that GunGFuBanDa, he's also a strong macro player. So I wonder how he's going to wall off. If he's going to look to take that third fast.
But do you think GunGFuBanDa tries to play a long macro game against Reynor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't see him doing something else on this map. I mean, the rush distance can definitely be shortened by the ability of Protoss with the Warp Prisms, more so than other races. But I think it's the type of map where you want to go like something like double Stargate Phoenix or something with high mobility and something that's a little bit riskier than you could afford on most other maps because there's not going to be roaches crossing the map probably.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I always just like Reynor has kind of become such an interesting figure in the European scene as one of the few guys that can beat Cyril basically, and he's got a couple of WCS titles on his own this year now as well.
More than Cyril.
So to me, I feel like I look at this matchup, I look at this group, and I'm like, anyone who plays versus Reynor should be trying to pull out some sort of ace or like trump card type build.
But maybe. you look at the egos, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but these are strong players that believe in themselves. You Thermal, a Laser, I think they're the type of player that would and could go toe to toe with Reynor.
I don't disagree. I think the possibility of like at some point I want to see Thermal play Reynor because I do think that there's an interesting weakness a lot of people have been talking about in his ZVT in particular. But we are loaded in. We are ready to kick off our first best of 3 of the day. You're watching the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series, spawning in the top left position as our red Zerg player. He is Reynor.
And on the bottom right-hand position as the blue Protoss, it is GunGFuBanDa. From Germany. Germany has so many good players, it's crazy.
Yeah.
To the point where GunGFuBanDa doesn't even sign up for Nation Wars, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard call.
It's a tough one.
European dominance in StarCraft is interesting because there's always been a couple of players from each region that were really, or each country in Europe that were really good. But we had like that period of time where it was all about the French connection when we had Marine Lord on top of his game. We had guys like Lilbo doing really well, and there were a few other players that were really solid and rounded that out nicely. Stefano, obviously.
Clem Rising at that point.
And now it's become a bit more, then things turned a little bit towards, like, Poland just had a lot of really good players and still does. But we've seen a little bit of a drop-off from, like, you know, from Nurcio and such. And then, of course, Cyril is very good from Finland, but Germany feels they've got, like, some of the strongest range across the board with their players in Europe these days.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Nation Wars teams, the three-man cell that could be Germany's, you know, they could compete with Korea, I think.
Yeah, some very, very talented players there. Anything of note? If you see anything that jumps out to your heart, of course, it's still very early in the game.
I think the wall-off is the first thing to take note of. This wall-off would be easily abusable had Reynor gone for something like a 12 pool, but again, this is a very, very large map, so the wall-off is... I was wondering whether he would wall off his natural or at the third. And this is kind of just make it so that GunGFuBanDa can have access to 3 bases very early on. And I still expect something like a double Stargate opener or something like that.
Okay, and he did send the probe to scout out early, so he does have an idea of what's going on. Sees the timing of the Zerglings. There's the first Stargate booting up as well for GunGFuBanDa. Interested to see. I love double Stargate play, so I'm trying not to talk about it as much with you because then, as fortune would have it, I won't get what I want.
Yeah, that makes sense. There will be an Adept made just to scout and a Stalker to deny information, but again, this is the type of map where there's probably not going to be much happening for a little bit. Reynor is also playing very safe, getting the Overlord speed, soon to cost a little bit less.
Okay, so Katz, you're a memer then. Then I'll ask you, have you been able to do any wonderful, and I'll use the word loosely, abusive builds on this map with those mineral patches on the side? If you like played a Protoss who did this?
Yeah, I really like when there is a wall-off like this one, I really like sending a couple of drones early and removing, you know, 2 of those mineral patches as our wonderful observer is showing us. And then, you know, you can do things like Ling Rambais. But good Protoss players will keep a pylon behind the minerals so that if they spot the drones, they can wall it off.
Yeah, I put a bunker on that just so people can't get it home.
All right, so the scout cannot be denied, as the Stalker will be here.
That's really... I don't know if he saw anything from that already, but the fact that he doesn't see the Stargate to me just feels really weird. But he's going to come back around. He'll definitely spot it now. Oracle making its way. So it didn't have a crazy amount of heads-up time on this. First Spore Crawler has just begun.
Yep.
This Queen is going to try to meet the Oracle pretty far out and actually already gets a few hits in way before it can reach the drone line.
Yeah, and it also identifies exactly where the Oracle is. So, oh, but this is a mistake by Reynor. I was going to commend him on not saturating that base, but he ends up transferring a couple of drones and gives 1 drone for free. Still, the Oracle doesn't do nearly as much as it would like, but there's another one on the way.
Yep, so that 2 Oracles where it becomes quite interesting. And we do see the 3rd Oracle coming in from GunGFuBanDa. There's a lot of discussion around the strategy that Stats was using at the recent RG tournament in Finland. Yeah, he was able to defeat Cyril, a feat that very few people can say that they've done in the last year and a half now.
Indeed. So 3 Oracles is pretty cool, and Reynor is still producing Queens, but he's going to need Spores at every base as well. And look at GunGFuBanDa and how greedy he's going. He's definitely going for the macro game here. Double Forge, indeed. Very early Double Forge, even for going the 2nd starport for now.
Yeah.
So he's going to be cutting some corners.
I feel like you'd see that type of play sometimes versus like, oh wow, okay, losing one of the Oracles definitely hurts quite a bit.
But at the same time, this is fantastic.
I was going to say, I feel like Double Forge, that this early something you'd see like versus Terran, but almost never against Zerg. And all these drones came back. These Adepts have gotten so many kills.
Yeah, and a lot of mining time lost as well. These links are also useless for the time being as the 3 bases are locked in. So this is not a good start for Reynor by any means. GunGFuBanDa already 3 workers ahead with a tech lead and with that very fast, greedy third. I wouldn't be surprised if Reynor tried some sort of thing to try to punish this, but there's really not that much to do, right? There's the minerals, like you mentioned, and then there's potential for Nidus. But GunGFuBanDa is going to be well aware of these options.
Yeah, he's got, I'd say there's some dark space in his main, but he's got the edges of the map covered, so he should be aware if like an Overlord or Overseer tries to sneak around the side. Observer goes out, and that 1-1 that you were talking about coming in. 7 gateways being added. Ooh. And because the focus would all be that front wall, it's the easiest scenario for defending an attack that a Protoss could have. Is there's only one direction Zerg can hit you from.
Exactly.
Without, you know, of course, the Nidus or something like a Doom Drop. Overlord comes in to scout again. But you see that Robo Bay, double Forge.
And that's gotta hurt. I mean,
does it make your blood boil, Cats?
Yeah, if you're a Zerg player and you're scouting this late, it feels bad, right? Because there's no opportunity to punish it anymore. Like, the upgrades are just coming in. They've finished, and there's so much tech and greed going on the side of GunGFuBanDa and that is while he did some damage with the Adepts as well, like some significant damage, right? So very little commitment, and he's even gonna be daring enough to come take this 4th base. The Oracle will defend against Mostling Rambais, so he'll just leave it there, and this push is probably just willing to be recalled if need be.
Yep, and on this map, of course, the way the flow of the production all goes down towards that 4th anyway, so it's still easy to defend as GunGFuBanDa brings his army towards the expansion. Now the 4th base is done for Reynor, but that 5th hatch is on the way on the west side, and if he can force a cancel here, that would be nice. Does he need more than that, do you think?
I think this is fine because he can just recall whenever. He has a couple of sentries for a lot of force fields if need be, and Reynor really doesn't have the composition to trade effectively against Colossus. But here's the equalizer. Will it work?
Tries to get the Bane right now. Keep in mind these are not +2 Banelings yet, so deals with it very well. The probes are safe.
I mean, that's an expensive drop. It may not seem like it, because when you spend your money on Banelings, you already paid for the Zerglings, but altogether it's a pretty hefty amount of money, including the Overlord that he just lost for nothing.
I think considering the way the game started as well, you really want to get some value for that resource that is lost. Tells a nice story. All of the things that were lost for GunGFuBanDa killed a lot in return. Stasis Ward catches some of the Zerglings here. And of course, I mean, upgraded Colossi are going to be very good against a lot of Zerglings, even though...
And Hydras. So Reynor's trying to transition into a Hive so that he can get to Vipers early enough that he can deal with a Colossus. If GunGFuBanDa can hit before those Vipers are done collecting energy, this will be very, very strong for him.
Yeah. So Stasis Ward ends. Some of these Zealots are going to come out. And the 2-2 close to halfway done. Blink is about to finish. So as the Warp Prism drops some Zealots, there is no charge or anything like that yet. So the upgrades do matter. The Carapace isn't ready, so the Zealots, I think, are getting the 2 shots on the Lings, which is important. Prism does get killed, though. Takes a lot of pressure off of Reynor. Yeah,
a lot of pressure. And just knowing that there's a Prism out, if you're a Zerg player, it's so difficult to move out. And yes, it doesn't cost a lot, but it costs production time as well, most of which GunGFuBanDa will want to allocate to units like Colossi. And there's a huge
the Baneling flank comes in. The sentries all go down. One Colossus in the front is going to try to scoot its way back. Just get rid of a lot of the Lings there, but losing there are no force fields with this army anymore, so if he gets a huge amount of units to go for a big surround, the potential is very real for this to be devastating.
Yeah, and the Vipers are in production, so Reynor has done a very good job of kind of scaring GunGFuBanDa of going deeper in. Now without those sentries, he has to feel a little bit unease to continue to push, and he's gonna indeed pull back. And once Reynor gets those Vipers, those are the big equalizers so that he can take down this Colossi. Without the Colossi, this army just has no damage output.
Nope. And you know, the other thing that comes into it is there's still just, with the way that this build was done, there's still only one Robo. So when he lost that Warp Prism, having to rebuild it delays another Colossus that he could have potentially built and added to this. And this Warp Prism is with the army, but in a lot of scenarios, you'd like to have another Prism that can go out and do the harass while you have another one reinforcing. But you can't do that either, because if he does that too much, he just won't have the continuous Colossi production. But there's the Vipers that we were talking about. Ooh! Almost gets one of them. Does get one. Not bad.
Yeah, very good heads-up play by Reynor. They're trying to Blinding Cloud with the Viper that was about to die, so nothing's lost for him and potentially stands to keep that Viper alive. So very nice move, but still a shot goes off and we'll finish it off.
So charge is about to finish. Very important upgrade, even though there are a lot of Banelings with this. We've seen a lot of Protoss players be cheeky with their anti-Baneling micro. I think some of my favorites when you watch like some of the good players like blink the Stalkers into them one by one to try and soak them up. And actually it does get rid of a lot of the Banelings there.
Yeah, a good blink forward will get rid of a couple of Hydras and another one while as Zealot Rambai goes on. So nice job by GunGFuBanDa, and he knows now where the army is not, and that'll allow him to pick off this remaining Hydras, and it ends up being a cost-efficient trade for him. Now, GunGFuBanDa should anticipate that Reynor is maxed, and I'm not sure that this is the push that he wants to go for before he gets all his pieces in play. But just as we say that, the Storm arrives, and now he's looking powerful.
It's very important. He's added double Stargate as well, and a Fleet Bacon coming back. Dark Shrine, 3/3. So GunGFuBanDa is still thinking about the long game here. He's not necessarily going to try to force it in this scenario.
Yeah, he's done a very good job of denying the 6th base consistently. He's going to do it one more time. I almost want to let that hatchery go up.
So you can get the kill on it.
Yeah, or the cancel even. It's a little bit more money. A lot of Banelings spent for those Zealots.
Good control from him. He's got a lot of units to work with variety-wise in the army. Gets another 7 drones. Quite a few of them actually just one hit away from being killed. He's also been able to clear out a lot of the creep spread with how much presence he's had on the map. These Zerglings going to try to go for a cheeky run by.
Love those cannons.
Yeah, and there's still stasis ward sounds I'm hearing of them being triggered everywhere. So having the positional support with those abilities on the map is really nice too, and just getting rid of these Banelings, so nice.
Yeah, he's doing really a really fantastic job, GunGFuBanDa, so far, but it gets scary for Protoss as the game progresses because Zerg has such a good late game toolkit. That said, Reynor is going for Lurker then and the Greater Spire at the same time, so this might be an opening for GunGFuBanDa to do something.
Yep. He does have the Gravitic Drive upgrade, so that Warp Prism is going to be able to move very fast to reposition if he needs it to. It's just above that northeast expansion right now, so these Zealots come in and poke. The Prism does try to do something, or I think he just abducted it.
Yeah.
So that's a really good pickoff for Reynor, because we talked about the pressure. He's mostly just been coming in off these Zealot run-bys on the west side.
Yeah. Identifies that his Zealots are hiding and basically says, I'm going to push with my army if you want to get rid of those Zealots. Big Banelings coming in.
Coming in on that base, trying to pull some of the probes away. 11 of them dead so far. They are going to get one shot.
Oh, no! Oh, no!
Oof, 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 oof.
Oh, he just, stopped looking for a little bit there.
This starts to get, I'm a little bit scared though, Paolo, now, because that main should be starting to dry up. The natural doesn't have too many resources on it, so that 4th base getting hurt, it's going to cost a lot to rebuild all the probes for that, especially now as he transitions into carriers, so you want to make sure you have a bank. Yeah. But the lack of the 5th base for GunGFuBanDa is going to become a huge problem as 1 or 2 of those geysers run out. Like his ability to reinforce this army is going to completely collapse.
Yeah, and his priorities have clearly shifted. He was trying to get that base, and Reynor's looking to deny it. That's what those links are going to, is to try and deny the base that he's not even trying to take, and that's because, like you mentioned, the probes are gone, so he still has a 4th base to saturate.
Now the Zerg army gets scarier and scarier because you had those Vipers we were talking about, but 9 Lurkers, adaptive Talons being researched.
Oh, these DTs though. Right, don't poke at any. Oh, Reynor, what a keen eye.
Yeah, he tries to go. He's going to try to throw the first Hail Mary of the football season this year, Cats, but I don't think that one's going to be able to hit the mark as the Overseer is already there. That Observer, extremely precious. There's still an Oracle alive, but it doesn't have energy, so no revelation possible for the Lurkers. Observers die very, very quickly. You have to be super careful.
Oh,
great
very
feedbacks!
Nice. Amazing feedbacks, and that's going to put an end to the Vipers. This might be the opportunity, except that there's so many Lurkers, and like you said, only 1 Observer makes this push very difficult for GunGFuBanDa.
I don't know how this happened, but he's killed 15 drones somehow during all of this.
What a guy.
What a beast. Never mind. DT was a good throw.
Yeah, it always is.
So he's got that Prism by the natural. Would have loved if 1 DT kills a Greater Spire. I'm like,
yeah, I mean, they killed 2 more Banelings.
Does he have the tools to deal with the carriers right now? There's only 20 Hydras with Storm support.
Yeah,
these carriers are actually quite scary. Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to zone off the ground army really hard with those Lurkers so that he can deal with the air army with the Hydras alone. But as it stands, GunGFuBanDa with a very strong push, and this is gonna be very difficult for Reynor as the storms rain down onto the Lurkers and the Banelings alike.
Yep. No, this is really hard. That Observer, I'm sweating watching it fly forward like that. But yeah, the Lurkers are not in a position to deal with this. The Banelings do come up. Stalkers blink back. Colossi are mostly still alive. Going to abduct one of them with a carrier. Second Colossus does drop down, but now I start to say, when we talk about PvZ, there's no bank for Reynor anymore.
Look at the army value tab. It's very much in the favor of GunGFuBanDa, but a lot of units pushing up. Oh, that was a big mistake. No storm left. He might have to recall here.
He's out of interceptors as well. So the mothership is, he actually doesn't have detection. The mothership is cloaking the entire army, which is really hilarious to watch.
There it is.
Zealot reinforcement comes by and then turns 360 degrees and walks away.
Oh, heartbreaking. What an overextension. Just going up the ramp before the carriers are there for support without storm, with units that already took all the damage onto their shields.
And still no fifth base for GunGFuBanDa.
Oh, this is heartbreaking. He's still ahead in supply though, Nate.
Yeah, he killed a lot. He did kill a lot of the economy. Income tab looks about even, but there's that northeast base for Reynor's. It's got a little bit more resources on it than the expansions of GunGFuBanDa, and the hatchery on the left side is still up. So now he's like, okay, well, we need to get another probe, couple probes out there. Oh, DT
nice
snipes that base. Wow, really well done.
Yeah, he's all over the place with these. Very well done indeed.
The carriers, by the way, as cool as they can look sometimes, he only had the +1 attack during that fight, and since Reynor has had +3 carapace for a little while, they don't have quite the punch they'd like to against those Hydralisks.
Yeah, and sometimes it's difficult, you know, as a Protoss player to know whether you have those interceptors up or not. So you took note of that, and I thought he should have recalled, but maybe he thought he had enough power to stay then.
GunGFuBanDa's got a big army, and I mean, the supply tells one story, but that infestor count is going up, and we see lots of infestors and air units from Protoss. Those infested Terrans with their armor-penetrating rounds are very difficult to deal with for any sky-based composition, especially those interceptors that take so long to rebuild.
They might get caught alone here, though, as the rest of the army joins now. There's no static defense, so there's only the lurkers to kind of make a stage for those infestors. And he's going to be spending a lot of fungal here. Now, you don't want to commit a lot of energy from those infestors if you don't need to. Very nice lurkers left expecting this round by, but still, GunGFuBanDa gets a little bit of damage done. GunGFuBanDa just needs to find an angle where the army is not, and he's continually doing that throughout this game, just sending units everywhere.
He is getting a fifth too, which is worth noting. Nice. So that's really the most important thing I think right now. GunGFuBanDa posturing on the map is nice and also important for sure. But well, some of those infestors getting really close. There we see the first infested Terrans are going to get dropped. You need to be very careful about dealing with those. They are very strong, and now the neural parasite comes in onto the mothership. Can burn the energy on it if it wants. Mind controls the Archon, takes a carrier. So it's tentacles all the way down, Cats.
Yeah, and this is difficult now. I mean, when you have such a small army going up against infestors, it becomes so very difficult. Oh, very nice recall. This
saves one.
Yeah, that's something. And the infestors are out of energy, so that's the silver lining for GunGFuBanDa, who finally falls behind in supply to tell the truer story of the game. But
he does have the fifth base up.
Yeah.
My only concern is I don't think there's a window for him to actually try and do something now that the infestors are out of energy. I think by the time he gets an army up that can try to attack, there's going to be a lot of neural parasites available again, so he needs to be very aware of that, needs to be very ready to deal with it. The lurkers and the hydras supporting those infestors do make it very hard. These units are just so... Like, these lurkers require such their own response to be dealt with. And look at that. Just throws the infested Terran down right in front of him to act as a bit of a buffer while they start to siege this base.
Yeah, he's going hard for this base. It's very important that Reynor takes it because he just spent the next round of energy on it. So we'll see if GunGFuBanDa has much to say about it. I don't think so. I don't know what units he could use here. He's trying to use Immortals, but those could get neuroparasited too, given enough time.
Yep. And that's just a tricky thing. And he did burn through all of the energy on the infestors again with that last wave of infested Terrans, but I don't think there's necessarily enough as far as the carriers go. He has to be able to kill all the Hydras, and another round of infested Terrans are going to get dropped, and those rocket launchers are going to blow these carriers to pieces with the Hydralisk support. The interceptors are dying very quickly. Lurkers are still alive, so everything on the ground is still going to die, and Reynor completes the comeback. GG, game number 1 in his favor. Reynor dealt with that really nicely. A lot of it came down big overextension on the part of of GunGFuBanDa. He killed that expansion, and then he tried to push up the main ramp. We saw all those stalkers die, and
he
then
was in such a good spot right there. If he just kept his composure, waited for the shields, maybe for some more Templars to arrive.
Wait for his interceptors to rebuild.
Yeah, that would have been huge. I'm not sure if blinking back he lost High Templars or not. When I saw the blink, I was concerned for the front end of his army, because the stalkers can actually tank the banelings pretty well.
Right.
So that blink back was a little bit sketch if he lost any High Templars for it. But a great job by GunGFuBanDa. I mean, I've been there as a player when you think you're about to beat someone that's, you know, considerably the favorite, at least on paper. You know, you get nervous and you just want to end it because you feel like you can. But that's why Reynor's Reynor.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, he did a really good job, but the 5th base, Reynor did a good job of denying that, and GunGFuBanDa didn't take the 5th until way past when he should have. Like, if he had been able to take it as he's making that push, then I think it's a completely different story. But starting it after the attack gets shut down, after you lose your carriers.
The probes at the 4th.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, Reynor's like, well, now I have a bunch of gas, and I'm going to move into infestors, and once I have infested Terrans, your air units are completely worthless, so...
Yeah, at that point even, I was still worried for Reynor because there were patches where there was no creep, there was no static defense or anything to anchor for the infestors. So it was still a difficult game for Reynor then, up until the point where he gets another Parasite and there's just not enough Protoss units.
He did a really good job of keeping the lurkers alive, too. Like, for the units that he built in that stage, he didn't lose any of them other than, like, Hydras and Lings, the most replaceable of his army composition. But I think at some point, if those carriers, before they die, are able to get rid of the lurkers, then the Zealot run by, like on the left base, becomes more of a thing, and then the infestors, without that energy, becomes more of a problem. But since he always had the lurkers to anchor down the army, it was very, very difficult for GunGFuBanDa to actually do harass past that stage.
Yeah, and some of those plays that he did to save the lurkers were very, very good, very heads up. I remember there was a push where there was enough Zealots that they would have killed 3 lurkers, and Reynor decided to unburrow and pull back, and that's just such a difficult decision to make, because if you don't unburrow them, then they're going to do a lot of damage to the Zealots, but he, like you said, opted to keep those alive, those very important pieces. Yep.
So we're going to Acropolis for the next game. Another great defensive macro map.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably the type of map pool that GunGFuBanDa thrives on. I think he did a very good job last game, but we'll see if Reynor is looking to kind of mix it up and maybe, you know, capitalize on that, because he got away with too much. He
certainly won't be able to use his starting wall to cover his 3rd base. And if he did, I'd be very, very surprised.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be happening. So we'll see how GunGFuBanDa takes it. Maybe he will try for a timing attack on this map or something of the likes.
Yeah, I can see that. Acropolis is one of those maps I think you still see decent little bit of Nidus play on as well. It's a fun map. The middle areas get very interesting in the late stage as we are loading in. Hope you guys are having a good day. It's our first match here for WCS Europe Challenger. For WCS Fall, of course. Plenty of StarCraft action coming your way over the next 4 days as we build everything up. I think the finals for this season of Challenger are going to be in like 2 or 3 weeks, a little bit towards the end of the month, and then we'll be going into Montreal for WCS Fall on September 6th, if I recall correctly.
That's going to be great.
Yeah, so lots of StarCraft to look forward to. And then, GSL versus the World is next weekend as well.
Very hype.
Starting very soon. That's going to be sick. That's going to be awesome. You know what else is awesome? Our player in the top left. Trailing 0-1, he is GunGFuBanDa.
And arguably more awesome on the bottom right-hand side of the map. It is the Zerg player, Reynor. Name for Gamer's Origin, I believe.
Yeah. Reynor's so funny though. I love watching him get interviewed and all that. They had those like, you know, there was some technical difficulties, some delays during that final at the ROG tournament, but they like brought him on. They're like, how do we appease the people when we have technical delays we can't do anything about? Bring the Italian boy, and he is so funny. It's nice that for some of our top players, you know, our budding StarCraft, you know, flowers, they have that little bit of personality to him. Yeah, Reynor's story about asking for a gym was that was my favorite. I was very surprised that one didn't get clipped on SC Reddit or something, because some of the stuff that gets said on those desks those casters at their analysis desks when they have to fill time cats, you come up with some kooky stuff sometimes.
They'll do anything.
They'll do anything to get through a commercial break.
All right, so nothing out of the ordinary here for Reynor or GunGFuBanDa, really. We just see a Gateway Nexus on the side of the Protoss and Gas Pool after the hatchery on the side of Reynor. So this is as standard as it gets.
So we'll see if Reynor wants to do something weird at some point. But GunGFuBanDa, just by nature of the map and the way that that third base is not as easy to take for free at the start, whether he'll switch it up, probably. I think most Protoss players, or at least a lot of them, should probably still be thinking a lot about that 3 Oracle opening. So I expect to see Stargate, but if he wants to do something weird,
There it is.
nice.
Jersey of Stargate. So we'll see if he opens up with the Oracle. We'll see if Reynor also follows up with that Overlord speed. I mean, that's the safe way to go about things. He did it, and it kind of worked out for him.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he goes again.
It's my favorite thing about StarCraft, though, is that it's a lot of it also comes down to what you're used to as well versus what's good. And if everybody's doing this, I'm waiting for the moment where, like, maybe we get to Montreal, or maybe it happens in Challenger. You know, anything obviously goes. But to see a player like Reynor or Cyril, after playing against it enough, like, find something that just makes it look bad. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
that natural rotation of the meta where it's like, this build, yes, it was good here, but actually once I played against it enough, I found out it has this very specific weakness, and then boom, everyone all of a sudden will stop doing it. Or maybe it'll just be a new staple. It'll be the new Archon drop. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the wonderful thing about Protoss builds is if once you get enough of them, then they're just in your arsenal, and then mixing it up is one of Protoss' strengths, just by nature of the race being so tech heavy. So so I like to see this type of build come in, because even if they fade out, like you said, and they usually do, it becomes a thing that you can go back to as a Protoss player later on.
Yes. Yeah, I like it. Watching good players micro oracles is always a treat.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
whenever I play Protoss, I love building them, but they never work like when you're watching a pro do it.
Yeah, they're very difficult to make work, actually. A lot of that has to do with the so-called bug of the Oracle and how it works, right? If it shoots twice, and then if it kills a unit, the next unit takes double damage.
If the Oracle's second or the third attack, if the second attack kills a unit, the third attack is instant on the other unit without a delay, and then it procs it again. So an Oracle left in like a hold position over multiple units just does, like, what was it, like 20 or like 50% more DPS or something crazy.
Yeah, so it's insane to deal with Circlings. Very good at picking off drones. You know, if you can control them, I also struggle. So
the Warp Prism is coming out, though, so we're not seeing this huge commitment to multiple Oracles this time. And he's going to get the Templar Archives behind this, too, with a pretty early charge. So maybe this is like Archon drop with, like, maybe 4 Zealot Warp in with it.
Yeah, there's 2 more gateways being added right now, so we'll see. And more, now 4 to go up to a total of 6, I believe. No, 8. Is it 8?
He's at 4. Yeah, he's at 4 right now. He's going up to 8 gateways on 2 bases.
That's a lot. So we're probably going to see something like Charge Load Archon here.
Does start up a 3rd Nexus as well. But the potential for that to be a fake out is also real.
Yeah, I think he wants Reynor to probably scout this 3rd Nexus. Here's the Archons, and he's gonna morph those right away and try to apply some pressure, so that Reynor forces out units where he wants to be droning. Reynor already well positioned with the Queens, though, waiting for this to come.
Yep, and he's got Roaches coming out. Roach speed is on the way, so he's going to have a good buffer. And it's going to be very difficult for him to do something like just warp in a ton of Zealots with this, since the Queens are looking for that Prism. Immediately gets a couple hits off on the shields of it, and that's just going to make it hard to do anything. So these Zerglings come out. They're going to see this small move out.
Yeah, and that's so very important. I mean, Zerg is the type of race that just thrives off of the economy, right? Like, they can make so many drones if left unchecked. So just delaying the entry of the Prism is so huge. But now we're going to see GunGFuBanDa commit hard onto these charge slots as Reynor manages to somewhat get in, but the Oracles are going to be there. And let's see if this is going to be enough. He needs another warp-in.
There's a lot of charged zealots here. Another warp-in of them is going to
I don't like
happen.
this commitment.
Archons are shooting overlords right now.
Oh, no.
I mean, they can kill them for sure, but if the zealots are just going to fight roaches, they're going to be riding the struggle bus.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he could have waited for that. Oh, maybe this is why. Maybe he was trying to make room for that adept to do some damage. But yeah, like you said, the Archon's really not shooting what they wanted to shoot. I doubt that he was looking at them. He was probably looking and trying to micro the adept while that was going on. So so the zealots kind of run into the roaches. That's what zealots do. They run into things. And
they are good at that.
They are very good at that. And the roaches kited them in such a way that basically Reynor took 3 different engagements with the brunt of his army against, you know, 3 different pieces of GunGFuBanDa's army. So that's not going to pan out well for the Protoss player.
And now the roaches want to try and apply some pressure back the other way. There is an Immortal. There are some sentries with a few Archons, and second Immortal is going to roll up. So it's not an impossible hold here, but that is a lot of roaches for Reynor. And if he can get a couple of biles onto some key force fields, maybe there's some opportunity to kill this third base. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, and this is going to be a difficult position for GunGFuBanDa to retain. I think that Reynor would like to make a few more Ravagers maybe to try and kind of just siege that position where he has access to killing Nexus or a choke should those units come through the choke. But instead he decides to retreat. He decides he's done enough damage by virtue of defending the attack, and he has. And we'll see what he does. He already has a saturated 4th while taking a 5th, so this is looking great for the Italian one there.
Yeah. See, this is what terrifies me, because GunGFuBanDa, everything came up aces for him last game, and Reynor was still able to grind that one back. But now Reynor he's in his final form.
Yes.
And he's feeling good. He hasn't really had any serious setbacks in this game. He's got everything he could possibly want. Now he's moving into his hive. Lurker Den is almost ready, and I'm sure we'll see him get Adaptive Talons as soon as the hive is done with that. But GunGFuBanDa doesn't have that easy-to-take 4th that he would have had on Thunderbird, and certainly not looking to get a 5th anytime soon. So very curious to see how he's able to make this one work, because once he tries to get out on the map, one of the other things that Reynor's famous for is his move-outs.
Well, that's a start. Only that last force field was a little bit off, but gets to pick off some roaches for free. And the good thing that GunGFuBanDa has going for him is a really strong core army. Reynor is still transitioning very greedily on the back of knowing that his army was just threatening GunGFuBanDa, and that GunGFuBanDa probably shouldn't or doesn't want to move out that far. As we say that though, GunGFuBanDa is posturing to the middle of the map and maybe just threatening a little bit, so Reynor will be forced to make some more units perhaps than he would like. That hive is almost done, Donate.
Yep. And +2 with Hydralisk Ranger coming in. We got some roaches patrolling in the main by the sports so that he has everything covered. Once that hive is done, 4 lurkers being added, plenty of hydras. Reynor is maxed, and now he's going to start up a spire, some more spines, some more spores, and there you have it. So the lurker upgrade is coming in up to 7 now. And this is going to be a very difficult army to break. There's no easy way to put it here. GunGFuBanDa's got his work cut out for him. Roaches are going to try to hit the northeast while most of the army is south of the 3rd.
You don't want to waste storm on those because it's such a small subsection of the army and you have the means to deal with it. So GunGFuBanDa...
It's baited. 2 Immortals on themselves. Shield battery saves 1 of them. A storm is going to hit just 2 Hydralisks, but the lurkers are in position now, and that's where things get tough for Cats.
Yeah, I feel like he could even move a little bit further up to try and take that choke that we were talking about. Now the army is well covered by the lurkers, so it's going to be very difficult for GunGFuBanDa to break through this. Revelation goes on all of the lurkers except for 1.
It's a really good revelation. If he can get on top of them,
nice.
He can't kill them. There are a good number of Immortals here, so GunGFuBanDa able to clear up some of them, but okay, he still keeps the Observer alive. That's very important. So he's got that Fleet Bacon finishing just off of 1 Stargate, so just maybe thinking to add a Mothership with this army, but don't know if he can counterattack here. He's getting a bit bold.
Yeah, I mean, he probably feels some pressure to do something after clearing those lurkers, as they are very core units, but
yeah, no, he's dead.
Yeah.
GG. Reynor takes the series 2-0. He's going to move up to the winner's match for Group A. Not a huge surprise, but I think especially Game 1, GunGFuBanDa really made him work for it.
Yeah.
And almost had it. Almost had that first map.
He should have had it. He should have had the first map. This one was very convincing on the side of Reynor, though. Just very good play and going back to his comfort zone when he gets an advantage. He doesn't try to end it. He doesn't try to push. He just says, okay, well, you can't kill me, so I'm just going to do everything that I usually do and destroy you in a bit.
Yeah, very, very well done by Reynor. I'm sure his fans in the chat very excited to see him perform well. That does it for our first series of the day. Coming up next, we got a Terran versus Zerg. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready. It's going to be Euthermal versus a laser. You're watching the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series Europe. We'll be back in a few.